The man was the kingdom's strongest water mage, but the cost was that he was born blind, so he found a way to deal with it, using water magic to create a new pair of eyes for himself. At first, he practiced the most basic spell, water orbs. To train his control, he had to make as many orbs as possible and keep them in the air for as long as he could. It sounded simple, but actually doing it was far from easy. Even with his exceptional talent, he had to repeat the exercises over and over to solidify his foundation. He trained every day until he was completely exhausted. Though his body was drained, he felt an unmatched sense of fulfillment. Compared to the days when he could only act like a useless nobody, this kind of hard work with hope was obviously much better. 2 months went by, and the speed of his progress shocked his teacher Jenny. On the surface, he was just keeping 7 water orbs floating, but behind that was an extremely fine-tuned control. Even Jenny couldn't help but feel a little inferior. Since he was still too young to learn destructive magic, Jenny had almost nothing left to teach him. But considering the huge reward his Marquis's father had offered, she reluctantly decided to stick it out for another 6 months. The boy's water talent was closely tied to his blindness. It was a special ability called a hero's scar, only appearing in the descendants of heroes. At birth, he might lack a body part, a sense, or even an emotion, but at the same time, he would gain an extraordinary talent in a certain field. He was the first person in 100 years in the kingdom to receive a hero's scar. Plus, being the son of a powerful marquis, he was engaged at birth to the 9th princess, Milika. Milika wasn't interested in him, not because she looked down on the blind, but because his blindness had made him gloomy and withdrawn. The thought of spending her life with someone like that made her uneasy. But, as a royal, she couldn't go against tradition, and had to maintain contact with her fiancé. This time however, she was in for a surprise. The boy's entire presence had changed. He was polite, graceful, and always wore a warm smile, and he could even use water magic to entertain her. When his water orbs shattered and formed beautiful rainbows in the air, no girl could resist the charm. So when he invited her to spend time together, Milika blushed but agreed without hesitation, and they had a joyful time together. Even feeling reluctant to part ways, the 2-week interval between meetings felt far too long. A few days later, Jenny racked her brain and finally came up with something new to teach him. Since she couldn't teach destructive magic, she decided to refine his control instead, pushing him to the limit. She even demonstrated creating 2 water orbs, one cold and one hot, so he could feel the subtle differences and understand how adjusting the mix could give a simple water orb a unique effect. He picked it up instantly, even managing to create a cup of water that, when tasted by his personal maid, actually had a fruity flavor. Jenny nearly went insane. She had barely come up with something new, and he had mastered it so quickly. From then on, he trained his control every day. One day, while manipulating water around an apple, he suddenly felt like he could see. The maid scolded him, telling him not to lie or she'd be disappointed. He explained that it wasn't true sight, but more like sensing. Since he had never seen colors before, he couldn't yet tell what colors they were. After testing him, the maid confirmed he wasn't lying, and hurried to report it to the Marquis. The Marquis was thrilled, realizing that if his son could distinguish colors, reading and studying would become much easier, and his future would be bright. But once he could see, his magic experiments became even bolder. He tried creating a massive blood-red water orb, and when he got distracted by his mother calling him, the orb burst, covering him in what looked like real blood. The scene was shocking.